how to create magnetic advertising. I will not show you how to do this. Instead, I will show you an insight flywheel that enables you to find out what will work for you. How can we really understand what works and what doesn't work? Actually, what you don't need is just another theory. You need a process which helps you to gain clarity. And actually, I feel you. The topic of advertising is hugely complicated. And there are people who are feeling the emotion of the customer. Then there are the creatives that have the gut instinct, what's right. And then there are the analytics who everything process in a rational way and try to find objective evidence. And all of this is entangled, and it's really hard to understand which of those theories and tips and case studies is really working for you. Really thousands of books and white papers had been written. What I would like to show you is something which is really advanced, which is cutting edge in terms of the ability to drive impact. But on the other hand, it's practical. Yeah, it's very condensed in the very most important takeaways. And the overlap is what you need. And this structure, I would like to show you right now. Why can I tell you something about it? At Super, we are dealing with advertising research since over 10 years. We did intensive industry studies in advertising on what works in those industries on 6 industries. I presented results at world's largest Insight Conference, ISOMAR, and other conferences, and worked for large clients like Bayer, Allianz, Sonos, and so forth. And I had some good learnings that I like to share here. So this is a advertising insights flywheel. Okay, it starts with guidelines. Yeah, so we start and we end by collecting what are the guidelines for creating advertising, because you cannot start with just creating something. You need a structure, which does not mean that you impose any idea or so. It's really the guidelines. It has, for instance, what are the objectives, right? Do you want to create distinctiveness, mental availability, an image, so the reason why, rationally or emotionally, and so forth, right? And lastly, also, you could drive performance, sales. These are the objectives you need. And these objectives can be different in any domain, right? So what of those 4 objectives are really important for you? You need to define that. And that's written here. But there is more. There are also learnings on what worked and what didn't work in the past. Both is important that you write down what you found, what works. This also includes, of course, your corporate design, right? So everything which is a guideline and helps you then for the next step. The next step is the creative part. So basically, it is to create the advertising. First, of course, you create ideas. You vet the ideas, and then you find ways to bring this idea in a creative execution. So it's a purely creative process. And today, of course, everywhere is AI. So AI can help you to create ideas. It can help you even to execute, to make videos and so forth. But at the core of it is always the human which decides what's a good idea, the human which challenges the AI to do better. So with or without AI, this is the human genius which is in play here, right? But he uses the framework, to come up from 1 billion possibilities to 1 million possibilities. Out of this 1 million, he will choose 5, right? So that's this one. So now we execute some examples of advertising. The next step is to test them, because the customer is an unknown thing. Every individual is highly complicated, and that this way we need to test that, because also there are 1,000 ways of building building an ad. So we need to test that, and for testing there are many ways which you can all use, from simple to elaborate, and it starts with expert judgment. Basically, you ask people who know your customers well. But of course, you need to be aware that typically experts tend to overthink, right? Next, you can ask is if you have a customer twin. So in the future, companies will have customer twin, and soon companies are starting. And I had already shared an example how to build your twin yourself. And it's better to start simple than none. And with this twin, you can try to start asking them, showing them the advertising, and ask them what you think. You can even today upload an advertising picture to ChatGPT and ask them about their opinion. And it will not be always right, but it will sharpen your view and your assessment. And the better the twin, of course, the more it can replace deeper research. But it's a good first start in any way, right? Next is predictive AI. Predictive AI. Predictive AI is AI which is trained on research, on actual customer research, for instance, on eye tracking data. And this predictive AI can tell you where people will look at, even though you haven't showed it to anybody. And there are enterprise solutions which are really good, but cost the money. But there are also easy access solutions which I share in the working document, which just cost $20 or so. And you can use it. And then, of course, you can experiment. You can this, of course, depends, right? But you can have a simple digital advertising, put it out, and have 100 people look at it and see what happens, right? So you can have some form of experimentation. But it comes with a grain of salt, because it's not a really scientific experimentation, because typically it's not the same audience. And oftentimes you compare bananas with apples. So, but still, it's the difference of this test, of this experimentation, is huge. It tells you something, right? And lastly, of course, you can do market research, right? You can show the advertising to an audience and ask for feedback. I will share how to structure that in the working document. And there are lots of things you could improve, but basically getting feedback is even not as expensive as you might think. You can easily pay $10K if you go to a big market research agency, but you can even for $100 do something yourself. So, but with testing, the story doesn't end, because testing only tells you somehow if something works better than others. But it does not tell you why it's working, right? And that's what you want to find out in the analysis stage. Why is it working? So if I'm asking why, it's typically the solution of causal AI is close. It's even rhymes, right? If I'm asking why, use causal AI. And that's basically what you want to do in the analysis phase. And at Supra, we developed a solution we call creative AI. What we do is actually we test dozens or even 100 different advertisings in the test. So not every advertising gets a lot of samples, maybe 30 respondents, but over 100 is 3,000 respondents. But you can also test several advertising for one respondent. So you collect lots of data, but the trick now is that we also categorize what objectively is in the advertising. So is there a spokesperson? Which kind of creative techniques does it use? Which emotion message does it give? Yeah. So there's a codebook of 200 things which can happen in those advertising, and that's basically the footprint of a possible advertising. And then we causal AI that finds out which of those drive certain perceptions in the market research. Yeah, will people laugh, or will they be happy, or fear? Will they like the brand? Will they tend to buy the brand, right? And this causal link you can find out. And we found, for instance, that typically in advertising or for spots, some creative techniques are working everywhere, like the loser trick, which is a person where the audience is allowed to laugh about him, right? It's a Tom and Jerry trick. Basically, it works everywhere, right? Or when you use a music which lyrics correspond to what you all want to convey, like Eyes in the Sunshine, yeah, with this song, including the right story which matches, raises the emotion, the feeling very much, yeah? So there are lots of those findings. Also, spokesperson only works or has the main benefit of conveying a certain rational message. Yeah, if you want that the audience learns something specifically, a person which looks you in the eye tells you something, it's a great way. If this is not your goal, that's not the right technique. And all those kind of learnings, typically voiceover is confusing to people and so forth. All those learnings, yeah, you can learn, and you need to update your guidelines, right? So nothing of that here is perfect. And you can read lots of do's and don'ts in books, how to do advertising. But this flywheel, we enable you to find your specific signature, your specific success book. And that's how you win in advertising. It's particularly important because in advertising, you can easily show that some brands who really figured it out has an ROI of 10x, while most, let's say, 4 or 5 have a mediocre ROI of maybe 2 or so. And that's why this flywheel is really paying off. Hope this was useful. if you would like to talk more, book a strategy call at Super Tools, or follow more inputs and more content on 10x Insights at substack.com. See you there.